So just to like, get a little bit of about background about you, where'd you grow up? Kind of what kind of
Yeah,
environment was that?
yeah. So I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, in Canada. Where are you located?
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay, not too far away, not too
Yeah,
far away.
yeah.
So yeah, grew up in Ottawa in a small little suburban area. Nothing like privileged, nothing crazy like that. Just regular two income family home, and yeah, in the suburbs, man. And I eventually moved off and moved on to a bit of a bigger town here in the city, and eventually went to law school.
Okay, okay. Well, were
Yeah.
were you always a good student or
You know what? I was a terrible student through most of my childhood and even into middle school and a lot of high school, man. Like I was never really a great student, but I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer um, from a very young age. And I'm talking like sixth grade, seventh grade, maybe even younger than that. And once I graduated high school, I realized that my grades are important. And I was never really like academically uh like I was never like it was never natural for me. You know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Yeah.
So I had to really bust my ass to get better at being a student, being like a professional student, learning how to get good grades. And I knew that I had to go down this road if I wanted to go to law school, right?
So it wasn't like a natural type of thing. That's
No, man, it really wasn't. It was a lot of work. And so I said to myself, well, I'm entering undergrad now, college. And in order to get into law school, you just have to, like I said to you, right? You got to have good grades and you got to do well on the LSATs and all that. So I just something happened, man. I just decided to be serious about life in undergrad, and
okay.
I started getting good grades and luckily good enough to get into law school. So man, it was a blessing. It was just a decision that I made to get better at being a student, you know.
And this was kind of like ties in perfectly to a follow-up question of like,
Yeah, of course, man.
was there like a moment that kind of you remember inspired you to go into law, or was it like gradual?
You know what? To get into law, it was something that I was fascinated by just by watching movies, man. Like
Okay.
I know it sounds so
Is there
so
any particular
cliche.
movie?
No, it was not even that, man. I don't even remember a particular movie, but I remember seeing like on TV shows or like I said, movies
Yeah.
where the hotshot lawyer is walking into court and he's a stud and he's doing it extremely well for his clients. And I was like, man, that's something that I'd want to do one day, you know? And
Okay.
I grew up in a Middle Eastern household where like if you're not a doctor or a lawyer or an architect or something of that nature, then you're not good enough, you know. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's really true. And so I got a lot of pressure from my parents to do well. And I was like, you know what? Like if I had to pick between these three, then I'd have to pick the law, like to be a lawyer, because I can't stand medicine and I can't stand
Yeah.
uh, the math of architecture. So I had to pick something else, right? So it was a lot for me, man.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'm Russian, so my parents
Oh,
are.
there you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My dad's a lawyer. He's IP. So I'm
Okay.
I'm like in like a pre-law track, but I don't know for sure. I haven't graduated undergrad yet, so I
Okay.
don't know for sure. But I'm planning on taking the LSAT probably in September, sometime in the fall.
And it's so funny because you get this weird pressure from your family, and they're trying to always tell you, oh no, we're not pressuring you, we're not pressuring you. But of course they're pressuring you, right? They want, it's like this Middle Eastern culture and Russian too, and many other cultures where they want their kids to do well so that they can show off to their friends.
Right, right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you've ever felt that from your parents,
yeah. 100%.
uh, but um, but man, I definitely felt that way. Luckily for me, truthfully speaking, I actually ended up enjoying the law.
Yeah.
And so it worked out well for me in that sense. You know, I was able to, yeah, I was able to find a way to love the law. And there's a lot of lawyers out there that hate their jobs. They'll never admit it. Maybe some will, but there's a lot of lawyers out there who are unhappy in their careers. But I can confidently tell you that that's not the case for me.
Okay. Okay. Who,
Yeah.
who were your role models growing up?
My role models growing up, I think if I had to pick like a non-family member, it would be it'd be Stevie Eiserman. And I don't know if you know who that is.
I do not, but
That's okay. That's okay. Steve Eiserman was the captain of the Detroit Red Wings, which is my
okay.
favorite team growing up.
Okay.
And he was an absolute stud. He was an excellent leader, an excellent hockey player, but most importantly, he was an excellent leader. That the whole team, and he led the team to Stanley Cup championships multiple times. So Steve Eiserman is if I had to pick somebody as a role model, it'd be him. But internally within my family, I always looked up to my dad.
Right.
And I think a lot of kids do, right? My dad was an excellent provider for our family. He always tried his best. He went to work every day, and he did what he could for his family, despite, you know, being what do you call it, a refugee from Iran in
Okay.
the late 70s and early 80s. So, you know, the typical immigrant story, right? They come here with nothing and build themselves up, and that's what it was. That's what it was for us too. So the fact that he was able to do that is something I'm not sure if I ever told him that, but the fact that he came here with nothing and was able to provide was a big deal for me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
That's huge. Yeah.
yeah, and so, you know, now I'm a father of an 11-month-old, so that's really cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. And so I'm just like, now I got to do the same. And so be that provider, be the leader of the family, which I think my dad was. Of course, I'm always trying to one up him, but that's just how it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You always kind of got to do better than like the
That's
grandma.
right. That's
That's kind of
right.
like the immigrant mindset.
That's right. That's right. I'm sure it's the same thing for you.
Yeah.
And your parents want that for you. I think your parents
Yeah. For sure.
want you to do better than they did.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm so far so good.
Yeah. It'd be pretty concerning, I guess, if they didn't want that.
Yeah. 100%. I'll let my parents be the judge of
Yeah.
that.
Your personal injury law, correct?
Yes, sir.
So why personal injury law in specific?
Okay. All right. So I love personal injury litigation, and the reason why I love personal injury litigation is because it is in fact very personal. Unlike, for example, a real estate transaction, or even a lawyer that does a lot of solicitor work. The amount of time that I spend with my clients over the course of, I'm not sure if you know this, but a personal injury case could take, you know, multiple years, like 3, 4, 5, 6 years sometimes. And
Okay.
so you really do get to know your clients. And it's not uncommon for me to even get a hug from my clients once we've settled their case. Like it's a wonderful feeling to take somebody from a bad situation, you know, for example, a terrible car accident, and walk them through that sort of a litigation experience. And quite frankly, it's usually not a very good experience. So it's a stressful thing to do. It's expensive. It's very stressful. The doctors that the insurance companies set them up with, the denials, the a lot of hoops, man. And so I find it very rewarding to take a client from start to finish on a personal injury file, because it is, like I just said, right, it's very personal. And I like that. I like that relationship building. So that's the biggest thing that I like about it. And I also find it just sort of more intuitive for me. Like it's a lot easier for me to grasp like how a car accident can really damage someone's life. Like I can appreciate that more than like some, for example, complex, commercial transaction or some tax issue, or it's just more real to me,
Right.
to see, okay, well, here's my guy sitting at a red light and he gets smashed in a rear end accident and he's got these injuries and he can't pay his bills and he can't work, he can't pay his bills, his relationship with his friends is dying, and so is with his wife and his kids, and the mental health and the PTSD potentially. There's a lot of things that are very real to me when it comes to this kind of stuff. So that's really that's the reason why I love it the most. It very much hits home, and not necessarily because I don't no one really close to me has been in a car accident. It's nothing like that where it's like, oh, my mom or something was in a traumatic car accident. Nothing like that. It's just I can empathize with that more,
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I enjoy it so much,
That makes sense. And do you practice in Canada or at US cases too sometimes? Or?
No, so it's very jurisdictional. I can not only do I only practice in Canada, but I can only practice in the province of Ontario. 90 some odd % of my cases are in Ottawa. I have
Okay.
some in other cities within the province,
Okay.
but yeah, just Ontario wide.
Okay. Okay.
But I can tell you right now that the principles apply the same to all other jurisdictions too, like whether it's California or Texas, New York, whatever. Unless you're licensed within that state, you can't practice there. So it's very state specific, or on our side of the border, province specific.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And like what's the most like, maybe the weirdest or biggest or like case that kind of stood out to you that you remember?
So, I mean, I'll preface the answer by saying most of our cases are pretty much run of the mill. Okay. So like, again, 80, 90, whatever % of our cases are, I was sitting at a red light, I was rear-ended, or I was sitting at a stop sign, or perhaps a T-bone accident, or an improper left-hand turn onto oncoming traffic. So that's the most usual situation that we'll find ourselves in. But one case that stands out to me that happened quite a while ago. I won't say the name of the establishment, but a coffee shop, a very popular one. My client ordered a coffee there, and took it for the road.
Okay.
And he's just driving on the highway, drinking coffee.
Yeah.
And he starts choking on a piece of plastic that fell from the when you go to your local coffee shop and you the person serving you will like put the cup underneath the dispenser that puts out the sugar or the cream. He pushes the button, the cream. So anyway, it was a fresh bag of, I think it was cream. And the person did not, the server did not remove the lid from the plastic that lets out the cream. So anyway, the plastic fell into the coffee cup. My client's driving and he's on the highway. So he's going 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. And he just starts choking on the plastic he's driving. So he loses control of his vehicle and smashes into another car, and he's pretty serious injuries. So that's an unusual situation. We brought a lawsuit against the coffee shop.
Yeah, that is not where I was thinking it was going to go. I was thinking more like the hot coffee spill, kind of like the Kramer Seinfeld, like.
Yeah. No, we've never had that kind of case before, although I've heard of them. But another typical case of mine will be like, a standard slip and fall or a trip and fall, whether it's against a municipality or a private residence, or any sort of commercial establishment, grocery stores, dollar store, whatever, like any type of store, Walmart's, whatever.
Yeah.
All those kind of cases we deal with as well. But that particular coffee shop case is something that that stands out to me. And this was like at this point 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while. Like everything else after that has been the usual stuff that you'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean that is pretty
That
interesting.
is pretty wild, eh?
Yeah. But this is just like kind of like a more of a personal question by that I was interested in. Did you after your undergrad, did you go to like did you go straight to law school or did you work for a little bit or
No, man. I went straight to law school, and this is just my own personal view on things, and I'm sure there are people who would disagree with me on this, but I think that because I haven't done it myself, but I think that if I was to finish undergrad and then start working, it would be harder to go back to school because you sort of fall out of the habit of studying.
Okay.
And the reason why I think that's the case is my wife had finished undergrad many years ago and only recently decided to go back to do her master's. And I could feel like she was out of practice, and I think that she'd admit the same thing, is that she's out of practice of studying, because when you're sitting at a desk and studying and not earning income for an extended period of time, it's very frustrating and it's very difficult to do. So when you're still in that mindset of studying and being in the library, or if you're studying at home, whatever, it's something you don't want to break that habit, and that's what I sort of came to that conclusion, is just let's just power through school and then get into the workforce. And I can tell you, man, like when I was done school, I was ready to work more than ever before, because it'd been so long. I was like, I don't even know what it's like to earn money. Right.
Yeah.
So so I was like, I was stoked to start working, and
Yeah.
so that's basically how I did it.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I've been contemplating recently, is because I've heard that too, where it's like, you might not be kind of in that school mindset, that zone,
Right.
if you take a little bit of time off, but I'm also kind of like, I want to work for a little bit just to see what it's
100%.
like.
100%. And maybe, everyone's situation is different, right? Maybe you've got a ton of student loans, or maybe you want to save up a little bit before you can go back to school, right? Or because
Right.
law school is expensive, grad school is expensive.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't want to incur all those student loans. And I know that student loans in the US can be pretty hefty.
Right.
So
Right.
in Canada, our postgraduate education is oftentimes, I think all the time, subsidized by the government. So like going to a law school in Canada is way cheaper than going to law school in the States.
Right.
So, or not even just law school, undergrad, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just much cheaper. So I can appreciate that perspective too, which is why I'm sure there are some people out there who disagree with. But I was very blessed in the sense that my parents paid for my living expenses. They paid for my tuition fees for the most part, not all of it, but for the most part, they were paying for my tuition fees and my living expenses. That was the sort of deal that I had with my parents. They're like, okay, well, as long as you're in school, we will pay for you.
Yeah.
As soon as you're done school, you're out on your own. So I was like, well, I'm going to take advantage of it. That's for sure. So again, everyone's situation is different, but that's what worked out for me,
Yeah. No, fair. My last question, because we're coming up on where I think we're at 20 minutes here.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, is there any advice that you would give to your younger self?
Stay patient. And I'm more talking about outside of the academic world. Like, so I'm a lawyer and I want to get to where I want to go today. I want to get to the finish line today. It's not always going to be the case. I graduated law school and started my practice right away. I never worked for anybody. And I was extremely broke. I had credit cards maxed out. Couldn't put gas in my Honda Civic to go visit my mother. Like, that's how difficult it was for me. And all I wanted to do was get a little bit of money in my pocket. And I was very, very impatient. And this is something that really sort of, it's something that I have to even remind myself today. The problems that you'll face at, with a $10 million business, this is just my example, but the $10 million problems are way more hectic than the $1 million or $2 million problems. The problems that I had when I was a broke, starting out young lawyer in 2014 were way less hectic than the problems that I have now. So my point is this: enjoy, and even though it's sort of like you're sort of in it and you're trying to get to the finish line as fast as possible, try to enjoy the process. Your micro speed within your business, but macro patience on the large scale of things. And I think that'll make the process more enjoyable for you. So that's the one thing I tell myself when I was younger, if I was younger, and it's also something that I have to tell myself, today in 2023. So that's really the biggest lesson, man. And like, even when you're in school, because did you say you're in school right now, or you're just graduating soon?
Yeah, I'm graduating soon. I'm a senior right now.
So you'll be graduating soon. You're thinking about law school. You're thinking about whatever the next steps are, and maybe you're the kind of guy that's always looking forward and what's next. Let's get to the next thing. But man, just enjoy where you are today as well. And as a student, maybe you're a little bit on, you're broke or whatever. The finances are tight, but just enjoy it, man. It's nice being in school. Like, I miss school even today. Like, I miss those days when I was in school, because it was more carefree. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I'd tell anybody who's a student right now.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice, because I've been trying to enjoy it a little bit more now that it's my last semester. It's really been kind of hitting, like, where I go to the library and I'm just like, I'm not going to be able to even go here,
That's
in
right.
like a couple months.
And you know what, man? Like, a lot of those, and I hate to, depends, but like, a lot of times you'll lose touch with the people that you're around now, right? And you enjoy the moments, man. Take pictures. If you're not in exams, try to go out a little bit and enjoy time with your friends. It's a good time, because again, like, one of those things, as you get older, at least for me, it's just gotten more stressful. Life got more expensive. Life became more stressful, more work, more responsibilities. You start your law firm, just go back to it. Start your law firm. You have no employees. Like, you're not responsible for anybody. I was single when I started my law firm. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a kid. Now I've got 13, 14, soon to be 15 people that rely on me for jobs, and they use that money to feed their families. That's a very serious thing, and I take that very seriously. And as the business grows, the office grows, there's more responsibility, more mouths to feed. That's literally how I look at it, man. And I take that, I do not take that lightly.
No, oh, that's honestly incredible advice, and this has been a great interview.
It's a pleasure.
I want to thank you again for taking the time.
Oh man, honestly, if you ever want to do this again, I'm here. Like, I enjoy it, and it's fun for me. Hopefully that was helpful to you and your audience.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will find this useful.
I'm always around, man.
Yeah, we usually do like a rundown of just like, politics and news that is going on. So, if there's something that's kind of like a legal related thing, that'd be great. If you wanted to come on, talk about it.
Send me a message. I'm always around, brother.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Okay, man.
Yeah, take care. Have a good one.
Yeah, you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.